On the show today, we meet former Miss Universe, actress and entrepreneur Lara Dutta Bhupathi and a few special guests who talk about reinvention.
Reinventing yourself, readapting to situations. I think that's somewhere always kind of been in my blood.
Look at life as this crazy journey, and discover what makes you really happy. Then just chase it with a vengeance.
There's a lot of each to their own because I think different things give different people that drive.
You just have to go out there and do it. The time will never be right until you've actually done it.
Today we have an absolutely stunning guest who is really a great symbol of reinvention. She's been not just a model, but she's been a Miss Universe. Now I'm giving it away because there aren't many people to guess from. She's also a producer. She's an amazing actress. She's a wonderful mom. She's a fabulous wife. And I'm sure she's a great sister and daughter and all those things. The wonderful, amazing Lara Dutta Bhupathi.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Lara, so much for being a guest on the show. Because the show is all about inspiring people and inspirational people who are bringing about positive change. I did go back in time a little bit and I watched when you were competing in Miss Universe and in Cyprus. I think you got the highest marks ever.
So they say.
Yeah, apparently, which is amazing. And I heard how amazingly you spoke at that young age about justifying the whole concept of a beauty pageant. Tell me a little bit about that time. What were you feeling and how did it all happen?
The year was 2000 and the last Miss Universe from India was Sushmita Sen, who had won in 1994. So 6 years had passed and there was a lot of pressure. It's a lot for a 21-year-old, responsibility to bear on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And I remember going in and I was like a bunch of nerves. And of course, the Times of India at that point of time gave you an entire wardrobe to carry with you. And you had all of these classes that taught you how to do your makeup and do your hair. But the minute you got on a flight from here, you were 100% alone. So,
Really?
From then onwards, it was just 2 weeks that you had to present the best of yourself, put your best foot forward and, try and make your country proud. It was an incredible 2 weeks in Cyprus, which obviously culminated on the 12th of May with me winning that title.
Yeah.
And so many people have asked me over the years, did I know the question that was going to be asked? Because apparently they felt that the answer was a well thought out answer.
Yeah. Tell, because I know what the answer is, and I'm sure many people do, but tell us, because I know I remember the question being something that talks about physical appearance. Are we judging people based on looks? And I think your answer, if you want to say it here, not that this is the Miss Universe pageant.
But I do know, so to the run-up to the contest, there was a lot of tension between the countries, between Greece and Turkey at that point of time.
Yeah.
And so there were these protests that had been taking place throughout the entire 2 weeks that we were there.
Yeah.
And, people condemning what beauty pageants stood for.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really know what the question that night was going to be, but we were very well aware of the environment that we were functioning in that point of time. And that was what the question was, that there are protests, at the moment saying that beauty pageants are detrimental to women and, things like that. And so I can really only speak from experience. And at that point of time, I hadn't even won the title. But I genuinely felt at that point of time, for a woman coming from a country like India, we didn't have much of a voice, And I wouldn't say, exactly. And I wouldn't say that we were the trendsetters. No, the women before us were, the pioneers. Those are the women that we looked up to, that trailblazed that path, before us. But I think since then, the fact that so many Indian women won on an international level and so many amazing Indian women that had these really strong voices, Priyanka Chopra, Diana Hayden, Sushmita Sen, Aishwarya, that we really changed the canvas of the way Indian women were perceived worldwide.
Absolutely.
And for me, that's exactly what I felt in that moment, that would really give me an opportunity to be heard,
At that young age, you did that. And I know you spoke with such poise. And I was like, what? Were you 21? And, so I think that's something that you've always had, a great elegance. I remember when we did Masti and I felt like complete, like fish out of water. You were so composed. And,
we did actually quite a lot of work together. And then we did the film in Bardasht. Yeah, of course.
This is what's so amazing. But it's interesting that one's had all those experiences.
And I think we were at the start of our careers at that time. All of us were little babies finding our way through an industry that, is a minefield in itself. So you're picking your way through it. And I would have to say, I'm really glad to see us these many years later.
As mamas.
Still relevant.
As mamas, yes.
Still relevant.
Absolutely. Reinventing, staying relevant. Absolutely. But coming to that, I know that you're also, I'm half Indian and half English. My mom's English, my dad was Punjabi. I know you're half Punjabi and half your mom's Anglo-Indian.
My mom's complicated, yeah.
So do you think that ever in any way made you have a little bit of a harder struggle to kind of fit into the industry or to do stuff in Hindi, for example, or was your Hindi always immaculate?
No, so I think for me, there's a little bit of history that comes along with it, Tara, and especially today that we've been talking about, you know, just reinventing yourself at different phases in your life. So my dad, my father, being Punjabi, was actually born in what is present-day Karachi, you know, so was a byproduct of the unfortunate, you know, events of the partition of India and Pakistan, and so was about, I think, about 6 or 7 years old when the partition happened. Exactly. You know, and you're talking about kids who had to literally leave with the clothes on their backs and, you know, become refugees and leave behind everything that they've known that was familiar to them. So I think for me, somewhere in my genes or in my blood, I always refer to myself and my sisters and my family as we're a band of gypsies, you know, but that reinventing yourself, readapting to situations, I think that's somewhere always kind of been in my blood. But I think for me, that came very instinctively, that adapting to various different phases and situations came rather instinctively. And maybe that's why, in a way, I kind of was good at it, you know, and I did it.
But that's amazing. And the hard work that also entails, because to adapt and then to maintain that and to be able to do that, so that takes a lot. And do you find that now that you are married to someone from, I have to ask you what his name is. Of course, I know he's Mahesh Bhupathi, but I want you to say what his real name is, because I don't think anyone knows this.
So I let you in on a secret, which if Mahesh sees this show, he's going to kill me.
But we're not.
But like I said, Mahesh is like his third name. So his whole name is Chinnagandham Srinivas Mahesh Bhupathi, that very few people know and realize.
Say that again. Say that again slowly.
So Chinnagandham Srinivas Mahesh Bhupathi.
Chinnagandham, okay, I'm 100% going to call him like that when I next see him.
In the South, they have a tradition of putting your father's village's name that's attached to your father's name and, you know, all of that. And then that kind of gets carried down. So everybody, the whole world knows Mahesh as Mahesh Bhupathi or as Hesh.
No, that's wonderful. Not to be at all honestly judgmental about a name. I think it's an amazing name. It's a beautiful name. I'm very politically correct about things.
I was just 100% sure. I didn't want Saira known as Chinnagandham Srinivas Mahesh Saira Bhupathi.
So coming to Saira, who is, I'm sure, the apple of your eye. And as you said, is now a little woman, not really a little baby anymore. So how did you feel when you first became a mum?
So, of course, we were really thrilled to find out just about 3 months into our marriage that I was carrying. And Saira came, you know, in fact, when she was born, she came 2.5 weeks early, and he was at the Australian Open.
Really?
And he was committed, at that point of time, to a partner. And especially as a doubles player, you can't leave somebody high and dry. So he wasn't here for the birth of his daughter. And for him, I know as a father, it was one of the most difficult experiences for him not to be there when she was born. But she's an incredible, you know, kid. And I think we put her on a plane and we started traveling with her when she was about 2 months old. And I have to be honest, Tara, I watched a lot of your videos of you traveling with your boys. So lots of tips that you shared with us. And I completely, you know, applied myself to that, because your child will turn out to be just the way, as difficult or as easy as you are as a parent, and the kind of environment that you create for them, you know. So with us, we had no choice but to be very on-the-go parents with her. And she ended up being exactly like that. So she's highly adaptable. She is very much a people's person, you know, and it doesn't matter whether you're young kids or older people, she will find her balance. She's an extrovert, and she's a sensible kid, and she's easy. And I've always said that I've honestly learned more from Saira than I've ever been able to teach her. You know?
That's amazing. That's amazing. Coming up.
I remember he came in about 10 days after she was born. So I handed him his daughter. I said, and here's the bottle, and you get to feed her. And he did it like a pro.
Do you feel that you're still always learning?
I'm always learning. And I meet the most incredible people on a day-to-day basis. People who have fought the odds, have overcome these incredible events in their lives. Those are your everyday heroes.
So Mahesh, now that he has time with her, where of course being so busy still, but is he a hands-on dad?
He was hands-on dad from the day that he arrived from Australia. I remember he came in about 10 days after she was born, and he got in at 4 o'clock in the morning. And he walked in through the door, and I was prepared and ready for Dad to come home. So I handed him his daughter. Here's your kid. And, I had milk that was kind of prepared and expressed and ready. And I said, and here's the bottle, and you get to feed her. And he did it like a pro. So he was changing diapers, sterilizing bottles, bathing her, and he did everything. And even now that she's gone a little older, now that father-daughter dynamic has come into play. Yeah. So obviously, she's got him wrapped around fingers and toes and everything.
But so he's a great hands-on dad, and you, of course, are a wonderful mom, but you're also a huge mentor to so many young women with what you do with Miss Universe. And I think that when we talk about bringing about positive change in different areas, so how did that all happen, and what do you feel when you're doing that? Because I'm sure there's a great sense of satisfaction as well as reminiscence or giving back.
Exactly. It's exactly that. I think, so for me, in a way, Tara, I've always been a woman's woman, and there's certain things as a fellow woman, that you just do, or things that you don't do to your other fellow sisters, And, but unfortunately, I've seen that most of the time, we women are our own worst enemies, as well as we're each other's worst enemies. And I think maybe because we belonged to a culture that was so highly patriarchal and was so male-dominated, that there were very, very few opportunities for women. And therefore, in order to grab those opportunities, you ended up clawing your way, towards them.
That's a very interesting
So you literally made sure that other women didn't thrive because what was for the offering was so little.
Absolutely. That's really interesting. I hadn't thought of that, the clawing out. But I think now, again, I'm a bit of an idealist, and I do think that now, as you said, now things have come
because
to a point
women are supporting other women, and therefore in doing that, you're actually creating more opportunities in the industry that I've kind of created a life for myself in, to see the conversations that have started, conversations on inclusion, conversations on pay parity, conversations on Me Too, talking about, there've always been conversations about gender discrimination and equality, but you finally have more and more women from different fields, from different, social, economic stratas that are coming out, who finally found their voice. Yeah. So even when it comes to mentoring the girls who go on to participate at Miss Universe, you get girls that come in, some of them, of course, come in from the big metro cities, have a lot more exposure. But then you get girls who come in from really, really tiny towns, little places. And you know how much courage it takes? You're fighting so much even to get to that point where you get a chance to participate. Yeah. Because a lot of times the families don't want the girls to be there. They don't want them to be educated. They don't want them to be heard. Yeah. So even having that struggle to get to that point, that's one of the biggest things that we tell the families, that you really need to support these girls.
Yeah. So now that you've learned so much, do you feel that you're still always learning?
I'm always learning. Yeah. I'm always learning. And I meet the most incredible people on a day-to-day basis. When someone says to you, who inspires you? Who is your inspiration? The people that you...
There's so many.
And it's people you meet every single day.
Absolutely.
People who have fought the odds, have overcome these incredible events in their lives that I can't even imagine what my, reaction or emotions would be if I had to go through something like that. And those are your everyday heroes. There's so much to learn.
Absolutely.
I genuinely feel, I'm in my, I've just entered my 40s now, and I literally feel like an excited kid. I feel like life is beginning, during every decade and every phase. It's, it's just you learn something new.
And now you've launched your own cosmetic skincare range. Yeah. So you want to tell us, and I know there's a little lovely story about the name.
Yes.
So I'll let you say it, but how did that all happen? Was it a natural sort of
I think for me it was. 25 years in the beauty industry. Yeah. I've gone through it from the age of 16, coming in as a model, then of course, beauty pageant winner, Miss Universe, whatever, actress, producer. Yeah. And, I've had the opportunity of working with the best skincare specialists across the globe, actually. Yeah. And over the years, having been somebody who's used makeup almost every single day of my life within my working space, I honestly found, Tara, that I couldn't find, we have every single multinational brand available in India, right? And the best skincare that has had years and years of research and development behind it. But it's very difficult to find a single skincare brand that will take care of all your needs from end to end, and especially for Indian skin. So though you have incredible skincare that's made in Scandinavia and Korea and Japan and America, it's essentially also made to cater to skins that age, you know, in these kind of climatic conditions where they're produced and they're made and they're marketed. Which for us in the demographic that we live in the environment that we live in, is completely and entirely different. So the idea was to create a brand that was effective, that was absolutely affordable, and was easily accessible to Indian women, made for Indian skin. And we did 2 years of R&D with Arise and worked with some of the best dermatologists. And so all our ingredients, they come in from different places. A lot of it is sourced from India. So we wanted to have some amount of sustainable development also happening from within the country. But we have ingredients that come in from France, from Korea, from Japan.
But again, this is another way of, I think, any entrepreneur, firstly being married to an entrepreneur and kind of being semi-entrepreneurial in this show and stuff. I know that one ends up, I mean, there are ups and downs and it's tough, but you're also providing a lot of work for so many people. So that's a great thing that you're doing through the venture as well. And Arise is the...
so Arise is, so a palindrome is a word that if spelled both ways or spelled backwards or forwards has the same meaning. So Arise is not a palindrome, but it's a semi-palindrome because it's basically Sara spelled backwards.
I knew that, but I was waiting for you to say that. And honestly, Lara, I could just keep chatting. It's so much fun and such a pleasure. But I'm going to also first say a huge thank you and gift you a very exotic Brookside gift.
Thank you.
Because you really are exotic.
This is going to be most enjoyed by my husband and daughter, the big chocolate freaks. But I can see it's all very healthy.
Chinny.
My husband, whose name is Chinagandham Bhupati.
As I said, I love the name. I love the name. And that brings me to my next gift. Here's a kit from Byju's, the learning app. It contains a personalized learning program specially crafted as per the student's syllabus. We'll be donating it to a student in need. Thank you. That was really lovely. Thank you. Coming up.
You know, the way I see it is you've got to, look at life as this crazy journey. You have to discover layers of yourself, then just chase it with a vengeance.
The time is never right. You just have to go out there and do it. The time will never be right until you've actually done it.
Great tip. Just have to jump in. I actually think the word mum kind of implies reinvention because most mums do in some way. And today we have two lovely mummies here with us who are great examples of reinvention. We've got Tejal Bajla and Shriya Lamba, and we're missing the third one in their triumvirate. We're missing Kiran Chaudhary Amlani. These moms are not just reinventing with creating their own entrepreneurial ventures, but they've also together created a mummy community, the Mommy Network. So first, let's start with Deja. Tell me a little bit about what brought you to start Brainsmith and how did it all happen?
I quit a job to really raise my firstborn because that's what I thought would be the best thing to do, stay at home watching every move as I had seen my mum. And I think I realized that that really wasn't doing me any good. I suffered severe postpartum for 3 years.
Really?
In the time that I was raising Arman. And I realized that a large part of who I am was all about the work I did. I got my sense of recognition from my work, and I think that was a missing sort of area. The 3 years that I spent with Arman, working with him, staying at home, led to a lot of developmental courses that I did purely out of personal interest for Arman.
Yeah.
And that led to really the birth of Brainsmith, which was my first baby after Arman.
Yeah.
Where we started an early learning company where we make tools and toys for little children to sort of help the process of early brain development.
Wow.
And I think, that evolved into a lot many other things. But I think this whole evolution of motherhood and what comes about with it, I think that's an interesting journey, right? It's constantly taking new shape. It's like this adventure ride. And I just hope that, we can sort of be joyous about it.
Absolutely. And I think, as I've always said also, there's a lot of each to their own because I think different things give different people that drive. And Shriya, did you also have a period of postpartum or something that kind of gave birth?
I was a management consultant for 10 years.
Yeah.
And did my MBA, thought I would be like this career woman who would have her child, go back to work like within a few months. Like that was always the game plan. So did consulting for a decade, and I'd moved back to India. I met my husband here, had my child, and that's when things changed a little bit, right? So I stayed at home for about a year, working part-time, still loved my job. Actually, just before I had Sarah, I met Kiran at prenatal class. Never thought I would meet soulmates, new soulmates at this stage of my life, right? And we were just sitting one day in the evening and we just said, you know, we're both new to town. We both don't have family in Bombay. Let's just create a Facebook group. Yeah. This is at like 9 p.m. one night on WhatsApp discussing it. And Kiran just went on and she created a group. And she's like, we will add all our friends who have kids because we need help. Yeah. That's where actually the Mommy Network started.
You guys are doing a huge job, honestly, with bringing about positive change by bringing all these people together. I'm, you know, on the community and I see all the interactions. And as I mentioned, I've had other mommy communities on as well.
Like First Moms Club, The Swaddle, Baby Chakra, Knitting Nani, Miss Malini, Jams Moms, Momo Moms, People Connect, Kids Stop Press, and many more.
And what I find is so lovely is that there's space for everyone. So what is the next step with Mommy Network?
With the Mommy Network, what's really unique and how we actually met, it was Kiran and Shriya who actually founded the Mommy Network. And when I just launched Brainsmith, they were the first ones to give me a platform to be able to reach out to an audience. I think that's where the concept of the Mommy Network pop-up really came about. You know, they were very kind. They actually made me co-founder at the Mommy Network, and we've built this whole organic
thing. It was the best decision of our life to actually make it this threesome, right? Yeah. Because we all bring so many different things to the mix. Yeah. Ex-consultant, ex-banker, ex-lawyer. Just been the perfect partnership.
I think the pop-up is a wonderful thing as well because you're encouraging mommy entrepreneurs and mompreneurs and others who have products, I think, in the kids space.
Considering the Mommy Network and the platform that we gave ourselves to launch our businesses, if we could just give this to other mothers, I mean, that was really the pure thought behind the pop-up. Yeah. We started with 20 brands and, you know, now it's 120. I feel like this whole community and this whole pop-up has actually given birth to like a growing tribe of what I like to say mompreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think it's a fantastic thing. And I think it's not really just limited to mums because I do see, honestly, dads play a huge part in supporting all those mompreneurs and entrepreneurs. And I've seen so many of them, including your husbands.
Oh, yes.
And mine, you know, supporting everything. So honestly, I'm really glad to have you guys here. And if there's anything you'd like to say in terms of a tip to anyone out there.
You know, the time is never right. You just have to go out there and do it. The time will never be right until you've actually done it.
Yeah. So great tip. Just have to jump in.
I lived it. You know, 1 year after starting the Mommy Network, that's when I met Farah. You know, I met somebody who kind of like had a very similar life. I mean, she did business school, consulting in London and Argentina, moved to India. We both married British husbands, dragged them back to India, and had children around the same time. I mean, we very passionate about nutrition, right? Clean eating, the whole like healthy, natural way of life, especially for our children as well. I'd met the perfect partner. I had a great idea that I was actually very emotionally attached to. Yeah. So I jumped in.
That's great to hear. And Tejal, any tips you'd give anyone?
So I think, you know, the way I see it is you've got to, you know, look at life as this crazy journey, you know, like an adventure. Over a period of time, things will constantly evolve. You will evolve. So you have to discover layers of yourself and discover what makes you really happy. And then, you know, once you've discovered that one passion project, then just chase it with a vengeance.
Absolutely. Yeah. So on that note, guys, it's always a pleasure. I love chatting to you guys. I could go on and on. And here's a little Hershey's happiness hamper as a gift. Sharing happiness. Ooh, oh, wow.
Not bad.
Yeah, very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Next week, we meet the hitman of the Indian cricket team, the fantastic Rohit Sharma, who talks about the importance of family.
You've said, you know, often that family is the most important thing. And do you think that their presence has made you better?
Obviously, when they're around, there's a sense of calmness around. I get to do what I do is mainly because of them now.
He talks about the valuable advice given to him by his father.
How do you stay grounded?
My father always told me, no matter how far you reach, you have to understand where you came from.
And his message to families and parents.
Now as parents, you see the sacrifice that they also, of course, make.
Absolutely. I only talk about this to the parents. Let your kid go and have that dream and let him have that freedom, more importantly.